Alright, so we're talking about Pokemon this week because not only is it the 30th anniversary of the release of the first games, but a very prestigious scientific journal actually published a piece on how Pokemon has shaped real scientific research over the last 30 years. So there's real actual scientists who were inspired by Pokemon that have published real peer-reviewed research on evolution, neuroscience, biodiversity, even public health. So I really want to review these things because the highest grossing entertainment franchise of all time isn't Star Wars or Harry Potter or Marvel or anything. It's actually Pokemon. It's had over $150 billion since 1996, which is more than Star Wars and Harry Potter combined. So yeah, we're going to go talk a little bit about a Japanese game about catching fictional monsters this week. All right, so I'm just going to go through the article in a second here and just read it live and share it as I go through it. But I did want to kind of share my Pokemon origin story of my own. So I think I was 13 years old, and I got a Pocket Monsters ruler before they shortened it to Pokemon or had the original starters on it. Played Pokemon Red and Blue. Then I kind of forgot about it for 2 decades until Pokemon Go launched in 2016. It was just a few months after my son was born, so I was outside every day. Taking him outside actually got me out of the house, which is great. Since then, I've been following along a little bit. My son's 9 years old, absolutely obsessed now. He plays with the cards. There's Switch games. There's still Pokemon Go. And Pokemon Legends Arceus, I played with him a little bit. It's legitimately one of the best games in the franchise, so I would recommend playing it on the Switch if you have it. But all right, let's get into the article. All right, so I'm going to read through this and just comment on it as I go. So Pokemon turns 30, how fictional pocket monsters shaped science. All right, so yeah, so like I said, diverse fields, evolution, biodiversity, and research integrity. A lot of these things are related to medicine. They have a picture here. Since these are the original 151, I could name all of these Pokemon, but there's over 1,000 now that I don't know the majority of. But Charizard in the center here, Pidgeot, Geodude, Vulpix, Staryu, I think it's a Goldeen, Psyduck, Zubat, Onix. So these all have like different types and stuff. So like fire types like Charizard would be weak against water types like Staryu. So it teaches kids some kind of classification. So anyways, all right, let's see. So on February 27th, 1996 was when it was released. He had a childhood passion for collecting insects. I also collected insects as a child. I forget what it was called. It was like a bug jar, and it was like basically like a plastic, like rectangular thing that had a green lid with holes already poked into it, and it came with a book, and it had every type of like local animal there, local bug, I should say, and I caught everything except the praying mantis, which was like my holy grail. I always looked for praying mantises. So when I finally saw some when I was older, I was like, oh man, I wanted this when I was a little kid. But yeah, I could definitely relate to the childhood passion for collecting insects. So here it talks a little bit about how it's found its way into science and academic research, ecology, fossils, etc., even calling out predatory journals. So Arjun Munn was also influenced by this, who's now the assistant curator of fossil fishes and early tetrapods. So there's a whole thing of fossils in Pokemon too. There's like extinct Pokemon that only supposedly exist as fossils today. Of course, you can still somehow catch them, and even I think in the show he even encountered them. He fell into some like crack like they do in Land of the Lost type dinosaur thing. Spoke to scientists around the world. All right, so there's another scientist in Canada who grew up the games, watching the series. Collecting Pokemon is a very much an entomologist does. So entomologists, not etymologists. So entomologists are bug scientists, so they catch them all, and they also categorize them to their diverse fictional features and abilities. So classification, exactly what a taxonomist does. So going back to here, taxonomy saying classification. So Charizard, for example, is fire and flying. So he has 2 different types. So a water type like Staryu would be strong against fire, whereas like a ground type like Geodude, who he doesn't have legs and he's flying, but he's not a flying type. He's a ground type. So ground is weak against air because air has the superiority in the air, for example. So same thing with, you could look at these other ones. Vulpix is a cute little fire dog here. So Staryu would be strong against Vulpix, but Vulpix could be strong against if there was a grass Pokemon, because lighting grass on fire is a stronger thing. So there's like all kinds of little nuances there. But yeah, it is taxonomy to this guy's point. All right. So while pursuing his master's degree, he spent months driving around Chile collecting bees. So he analyzed the shape of these, and he identified 8 new species. And one of them was drawn out like the snout of a horse or dragon. He named it Chilicola Charizard, after the draconic Pokemon Charizard. So you can look over here. This is Charizard. I didn't realize this was going to say this later, but so this is Charizard right here. So if you see it from this side, it has like a little dragony mouth. It's not a dragon type though, although it does have some dragon moves, and it can mega evolve into a dragon type in one way. But anyways, I learned that from Pokemon Go on my son. So fossils. Okay, I talked about fossils. So currently there's 1,025. Okay, so the original 151. I'm an expert on. I could tell you all the things about the original 151, but the rest, not so much. But I have caught up a little bit with my son in the recent years. So dozens of Pokemon are named after real-life animals. This includes Aerodactyl, which I know Aerodactyl is one of the original 151, based on flying reptiles such as pterosaurs. These ones. Aerodactylus is a genus named after the Pokemon. Yeah, these pterosaurs are these, pterodactyls and stuff that you've seen probably in playing as a kid or Jurassic Park or whatever. All right, so as a learning tool, let's see. Pokemon has helped researchers develop resources for teaching. 109 school children reported that children could name significantly more Pokemon characters than they could wildlife species. That's definitely accurate. I think in second grade, like all the kids were super into Pokemon on day one, so that's when my son picked it up. There's a whole lot of things that kids know about Pokemon that they don't know about real life animals, insects, bugs, whatever. All right, so there's a Pokemon-inspired card trading game, all right, named Philo. Players built food chains, create stable ecosystem. All right, so this isn't really related to Pokemon, just inspired by Pokemon, so still something, a learning tool. Okay, so basically like a Pokemon-like game helped them learn more about real life species, which is cool. All right, Pokemon and predatory journals is used to expose dodgy practices in academic publishing, as well as playing Pokemon Go in his spare time. Entomologist Matan Shalomi at National Taiwan University in Taipei, awareness for predatory journals. I should look this guy up on like Twitter and try to add him, send him this video. About predatory journals, a scourge in academia. In 2019, he wrote dozens of fake papers with made-up references and fictitious co-authors, including characters from Pokemon such as Professor Samuel Oak. Is that Professor Oak's first name? I feel like I never knew his first name, but he's like the main character's father figure who like gives him his first Pokemon, and he answers all the questions that the main character in the show, at least Ash, has. So he submitted them to journals that he suspected to be predatory. Any predatory journal that sent me spam emails, I would reply with one of these fake submissions. Several of these fake papers ended up being available online because they don't practice peer review. You know what peer review is: when your peers look at your claims, they can try to recreate it and kind of question it. His papers included studies about air and water quality, the fictitious Pokemon city of Gringy. I don't know what that is. Maybe that's a Pokemon that came up later that I'm not aware of. I guess it's a city. I don't know the cities. Sedation and Anesthesia by Jigglypuff. That is a Pokemon that puts its opponents to sleep when it sings. There was actually a Super Bowl commercial that had Jigglypuff singing in it. I think it was Lady Gaga or someone actually said Jigglypuff was her favorite Pokemon, and she sings with it in the new commercial. You could look it up on YouTube. And an expression of Pikachurin protein in the Pokemon Pikachu. So basically, he's using on like references that regular people wouldn't get and sneaking them into these journals, who are then not vetting it properly because he believes that they're predatory journals. So he's testing them by putting all this fake stuff, and if they do publish it, then you know that they're kind of full of BS. So he says he can't take down the journals, but he can take down some of this. Scientists should definitely start exploring some of these ways our communication science is under attack. These fake journals out there publishing Pokemon stuff is a good way to call them out. I do want to click on this sedation and so biomed grid. Twilight sedation as anesthesia is used when the latter is unnecessary or contraindicated. I need to send this to one of my friends who's I have two close friends who are anesthesiologists. So I have a picture of Jigglypuff in the B wave here. All right, this is pretty funny. But all right, this sedation anesthesia thing is really funny. Okay. So you can see he starts with real things. So these are all things used in anesthesia. And then Marowak is a Pokemon. Centret is also a Pokemon. And then fentanyl is back to being medicine. So it looks and sounds like it's a real thing. Alola Island. I think Alola is also a Pokemon thing. I'm fighting for Richard. Common name. I'm sure this is a joke too that I don't get, but some kind of Latin thing here. Jigglypuff is Perry Domestic, known to produce several songs. Play Rough is a move in Pokemon. So is Disarming Voice. I guess these other ones are probably there's also attack names, I should say. These are like in the Pokemon games you could use Play Rough. Reduce song DFC. The song is used. I mean, this is just hilarious. I don't know how they get away with this. But yeah, anyways, so this is the kind of cheap work that you can get away with publishing. Really funny by this guy. But anyways, just wanted to do a little bit about Pokemon this week for the 30 years. Check out any of the Pokemon stuff that's around online. And I think kids getting into it isn't a bad thing. It does teach a lot of things as well. I think these Pokemon games that are mostly single player. Pokemon Go is a community game that gets people outside. I think now it's going pretty strong still, especially in community based in your local community. Larger cities have more Pokemon things going on. I think it's just a good time after 30 years to just check in on the biggest entertainment IP ever. So yeah.